Ashlee Evans-Smith here for Injitsucom with Brad One Punch Pickett. Brad, good morning on my end, afternoon over there. Thank you for doing the interview. How are you doing today?
It's been a good day today. I'm happy. It's good. Yes, my weekend over here now, so like I kind of relax a bit more of the weekend. So looking forward to. Well, not looking forward to. It's going to be a busy week ahead, like it always is for me.
Yeah, you are the head coach of the Great Britain hop team, correct?
Correct. Yes, I have my own team as well, and they keep me very busy. You know?
I'm sure every weekend is busy. I want to jump right into the questions. I know you have a short window of time. So, I mean, everyone wants to know, what's it like switching from high-level professional athlete to head coach of such a busy team? Has it been an easy transition? What's it been like?
It's always tricky, isn't it? When I didn't start competing until I was late in life anyway. I was always been a good athlete but in different sports. So I used to play football. You guys call it soccer, but I played that mainly when my main sport and cricket and stuff like that. I linked into MMA until I was 26, so it was quite late. Then also when I first started the sport, it wasn't even a career path. It was like just a bit of fun, something quite cool to do. Obviously now, because of people like myself who've been in the sport for a long time and other pioneers of the sport like Bisping and stuff like that, especially in the UK, it's actually like a legitimate career path for young, inspiring athletes. Now, if a young guy comes to the gym, I want to be a professional fighter, and not everyone's going to make it. Don't get me wrong, but there is a pathway there to earning life-changing money.
Yeah.
So when I was competing, I got to the stage where I started earning good money here and there. I knew this wasn't going to last for long. You know, I was getting late. I think I signed for WEC when I was 31, I think. Maybe, yeah, about 30, 31. I signed for the WEC, which back in those days, the WEC was the UFC for my weight class. And then obviously we transferred into the UFC. And I knew I had a short window, you know. I retired, I believe, at 38, I think. I was 38. And that's where most people sort of retire. I mean, I know heavier weight classes can go on a bit longer. And I could have gone on longer, but I kind of like became a bit more of a job to me rather than loving it, you know. But while I was still competing, I always, throughout my life, coached. So I was coaching. I used to go spin in England, then go to America to ATT to do my training camps. And then when I come back, there was like, I had a lot of young people there, like, show us. I helped a lot of young guys here back in England. And so coaching just became natural for me. So when I did hang on my gloves, there was already a place there for me in the coaching side.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone has a coaching job available to them right after their career. So it's lucky that you had that lined up. I'm wondering, you know, now that you're a few years retired, do you think that you being a former athlete is an advantage to people like Nathaniel Wood or some of the other coaches, some of the other athletes that you're coaching, because you've already been there. So you know, what are some of the advantages besides the experiences that you have in the UFC? Obviously, you're very skilled, but what can you bring to those younger fighters?
Well, a bit more clarity and insight of the fight game, because when I was training, my coaches didn't have a UFC career. The UFC was so new. So like, it's not many retired athletes who had a full-on MMA career and now coaching younger athletes. Normally it's like a BJJ coach or striking coach here. It's those sort of coaches. But for me, my whole career was MMA career. So now I show people also what kind of, I mean, like, not saying there's some great coaches who have never really competed in MMA, don't get me wrong, but I just think from the mental side of things, if I say to you, mate, I know how you feel here, they go, he does. I've been there. I've done that. I've worn a t-shirt, you know, so whatever, just on the not technical side of things, but just the mental side of things. And as a fighter, I've always said this, where fighting is 90% mental, 10% physical, because there's so many people who are so physically gifted, they don't have the mental sort of strength to pursue, do well within the sport. So mentally, you have to be really strong. So I think getting on the right side of your athletes, knowing how some people need a slap, like, come on, what are you doing? Some people need a hug. I think being a good coach, you need to have some sort of emotional intelligence as well, knowing how to handle certain situations. Don't get me wrong, technically I have great skill technically as well, that helps. But I think also my understanding of humans in general really helps me as a coach as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that every athlete is different. You can't have one coach with the same type of coaching. You sometimes have to be a chameleon as a coach. Everyone's motivated differently. So you yourself have to pull that out and kind of decipher what each athlete needs individually. I think that's really great. And you have this skill set to back it up. And me as an athlete, I've been trained by coaches who didn't have the background that you did. And when they tried to teach me, there was maybe a lack of respect there because they didn't do what I'm doing in the moment. So I do know as an athlete who has been coached by former fighters that when the former fighter coach talks, you listen because they've been there. So what are some mental lessons that, you know, maybe you try to instill in Nathaniel or some of these younger fighters? There's so much, right? I mean, whether it's nerves, you know, performance anxiety or nutrition, like there's so much, but what are some top mental kind of tips and tricks that you try to instill in some of your younger fighters?
One that three things I did throughout my career. I always found like a lot of people have like mental coaches here, there, and stuff. Me, I was one of those guys. Well, I had one, but I kind of felt like it just echoed what my own thoughts was and how I trained my own mind. I think I had a very good, strong mind for MMA. And a few things what I did throughout my career. Before, I used to have always so much pressure on myself to win a fight. So I didn't care how I won the fight. I just want to win, want to win, want to win. And it kind of clouded me sometimes within my fights. And then when I stepped back, I was like, I need to approach this differently. I need to think of a fight differently. My mind changed where I'm like, I don't need to focus about winning. I need to focus about performing.
Yes.
So if I perform well, and I believe I'm the better fighter, I will win my fights. If I perform well and I lose, I got beaten by the better fighter. But if I concentrate so much on winning and don't concentrate on how I could achieve this, and just like you know, I'm not focusing on my performance, you know. So that's why it kind of took a lot of pressure off me as well. So also things with me and my mindset is that I always knew that the other person across the cage is in the same boat as me. Okay, 100%. And then for me, I knew that the type of fighter I was quite tough. I may not be the most skillful fighter, but I was tough.
Yeah.
You know? So in my head, it was like, no matter what, this guy knows he's in a fight. You know, so if anything, he's scared of me. You know, even if there wasn't, I trained my mind to go, this guy's scared of me. He's gonna want to take me down. He's going to do, you know. So I train my mind and give myself that kind of confidence. But for me, I also been around some fighters who before their fight are laying, you know, so chilled and relaxed. I'm like, oh God, I wasn't like this. I couldn't sit still. I was pacing up and down. I mean, the changing room for me was like a death sentence. I was waiting. I hated it. I hated it when I started walking out, and it was kind of like. I was a massive fan of Tyson growing up. Tyson. I was a massive fan of Tyson growing up. He's like, even my style. I used to like the peekaboo sort of style of fighting. I used to combine that with my wrestling very well. But a few things he said in his mindset, like he was scared. Like I say, what he says that stays in my head a lot. Where he was saying like he dreamed how this guy could beat him and all that sort of stuff, and then. When he starts walking to the cage, he starts getting alive, and that was so me. When I got the walkout where Bert Watson goes ready to roll and you go in, I'm like, oh man, this is real.
We
Yes.
rolling, yeah.
Yeah. And then when I started walking out, I would find it now hard to fight through the pandemic when I had no crowds,
Oh.
because I was much energy feed off my crowd, right? Me as a coach, yeah, and I loved it. I fed up, I fed up the audience, you know, and it always inspired me to fight well. I was many times within my fights where I'm winning the fight, and it could be very easy, just grind the guy out a little bit, and I'm like, no, it's the last minute, boom, stand up, let's throw bombs. Me as a coach now,
oh my God.
I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? But me as a fighter, like, well, this feels a bit boring, yeah? I need to make it fun. I mean, hence why I probably hit quite a few bonuses within my fights, because I was very aware that today it's a sport, don't get me wrong, but it's an entertainment business. So you need to make sure that you're not just a fighter, you need to entertain crowds. If you don't entertain those crowds, you do not have a job. You know, as soon as you lose, you're gone. You know, so you need to make sure you're entertaining. And some people are entertaining in the cage, and some people are entertaining outside the cage, and some people are entertaining both. You know, and that gives you your stock market and your growth. So you need to be very aware of, you know, aware of being excited, involved in exciting fights, but then also make sure you win and not being stupid. You know, but go back to saying about the pandemic. For me as a coach, amazing, absolutely amazing, because I could give my fighter clear instruction, and like Nathaniel's just like a robot. I'm like this, that, yeah, and like clear here. Sometimes you get lost within the crowd, you know. So as a coach now, I want it to be a pandemic all the time, but when I'm a fighter, I want it in the crowd.
Yeah. I have fought during the pandemic, and I'm very, very grateful to get the opportunity to fight and make money and compete. A lot of sports don't have that, but it was absolute shit, because walking out, you know, I can hear my heart beating, you know, like I don't want that. I want all my emotions to be drowned out by the crowd screaming, so that all I can think about is the fight and the excitement, and not my own nerves. I'm exactly like you. The locker room is, you know, I basically feel sick to my stomach until my music plays. When my walkout music plays, I settle in, and then I realize I've been here before and it's no big deal. But yeah, same situation. I totally understand. And what a high fight IQ you must have, and a little bit craziness, to be winning the fight and then realize this is a boring fight and to stand up. So, you know, you obviously had to be much more skilled than your opponent. You and I both know that if it's a close fight, you can't do that all the time. But if you're winning by a lot, maybe that's something you can do, but you still got to have a screw loose, I believe, to do something like that.
For me, one of the, like I say you have to be dumb to be tough, but I do believe that, like you said, I do have good fighting IQ, where I also know I was pretty clear when I'm winning or losing a round. So I'll go back to the corner. I'm not one of those fighters go, did I win that? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, I lost that round. Don't worry, I've lost it. I know I need to get back this round. I understand the round down, or can go back and go, yeah, I'm winning this round. You know, I get it, I understand. So you have to have some idea yourself. Why are you competing to understand if you're winning or losing a fight? Yeah, that's why sometimes you can make it a bit more exciting. But also going back to what I was saying before about not the no crowd thing, how I kind of saw it, because for me, I wasn't great in the gym, you know, where it's like you're sparring and stuff like that. I was good, don't get me wrong. I was a UFC athlete, so of course I was good, but I wasn't one of those guys who would do amazing in the gym. But when I fought, it was different, absolutely different. And so, like, I saw it where, like, me now as a fighter, also as a coach, I see it so many times where you see this fight in the gym, and you're like, man, this guy is a beast. Can't wait to watch him fight. And he goes and fights, and he's just like, what's going on there? How did this guy lose that fight? And then the flip reverse, I've been there where this guy, man, well, I don't know, I'm not really feeling this guy in this fight, man. It's gonna be good. And he goes and fight, and you're just like, who's that? Who's that guy? You know, like some people show up on when it's real, and some people don't. And I was definitely one of those people. When it was real, I fought very well. That's why I also would be worried about the pandemic thing, because for me, it would have felt like a bit of a glorified sparring session, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
not
Yes.
real, you know. So like me with a massive crowd, I'm like, I'm not losing in front of all these people, not a
Yeah.
chance. I'm
Yeah.
very proud. Maybe I got small man syndrome or something, but I was a very proud man. So
Yeah.
like, I did not want to lose in front of people. So the more people, the more I wanted to win.
Oh, I literally just had a conversation with I'm going through a spine rehab right now with my coach. He's videotaping me doing an exercise and he goes, "That's the best one you've done all day." I go, "I don't know. When the camera's on, I turn it on." And it's the
Yeah.
same way in the cage. I don't know what it is psychologically. Maybe I have pride, not little woman syndrome. I don't know what it is, but I'm not losing in front of those people. And it's something about the energy. It really is amazing. And like you said before, you believe you had a strong mind prior to getting into MMA. So maybe you didn't need a mental coach, performance coach. But now that you're a head coach and you really are wearing the hat of father figure sometimes with these fighters, male, female.
I'm literally an agony aunt. I'm like, I'm a dad, you know, I'm a parent. I've got 2 kids myself, but I have like 40 kids which are classed as fighters, you know, like you know, asking me so many questions all the time. You know?
Yeah. So my question is, now that you have this role, this father figure role, coach, do you tell certain fighters, that guy who's not putting it together, do you go out of your way to say, hey, maybe you should talk to a mental or performance coach, or do you kind of let them figure that out on their own? Because I do think that when you and I started, like you said, we weren't making much money. Women were not in the sport. We did it because we're a little crazy and we like to fight. Now everyone, there's a switch of focus, right? It's like nutrition is better, training is better, you don't spar 5 times a week, like everything's better, right? So do you take it in your own hands and help these coaches, help these athletes with the mental side as well?
Well, of course, I think that's my role now. So like,
Yeah.
For me, it's like, this is where people get so much better, so much faster now than back in the day, because I learned so much stuff, and some of it I'm like, what was I even doing this? You know, this does not work, and that's me. So when someone comes into the gym now, I will show them tried and tested at the highest level technique, so they picked up pretty quick, you know, and they don't learn those sort of mistakes, so they get the high level tuition. But then, like I say, it's also in my role to make sure, like, you know what, I always use this. I love analogies, but and stuff like that. But it takes a wise man to learn from their mistakes. It takes a wiser person to learn from other people's mistakes. So I don't have to go. I don't have to let them make the mistakes that I made throughout my career. If it's inside and outside the cage, you know, like how you market yourself, how you do this, like they could do this off the bat. They don't have to make the things that I did wrong. You know, that I guide them in that aspect. You know, from my experience, and that's one thing. There's one thing you always say: you can never buy experience, you know, but you can pass it, indeed. Yeah, and that's why I like to pass on my knowledge to my athletes.
Yeah, and you're correct. It's really crazy to see how fast the sport and fighters are excelling because of fighters like you who are now, through trial and error in the cage experience, are now passing on your knowledge to these other fighters. So it's awesome. And I can't wait to see, we're going to see young 18-year-old men and women just looking like John Jones and Mike Tyson's and all that. Speaking of Mike Tyson, you did say that he was someone that you looked up to growing up. You got into mixed martial arts later, and it's an older sport compared to boxing. Are there any MMA fighters that you wanted to emulate when you got into mixed martial arts, or was it just mainly boxers that you looked up to?
Okay, there's one fighter back in there that I really loved. You know, like not so much his fighting, how he fought as well, because he was very flamboyant, and his walkouts and stuff. There's a guy called Genki Sudo. I used to love a guy called Genki Sudo. He's like over in Japan.
Okay.
There are a lot of people like you compete, and you probably think, who's Genki Sudo?
I don't know him. I'm sorry.
Exactly that. But he was amazing back in the day, right? You may have known this. He held a flag once saying we're all on one.
Oh,
And he
yes,
had
I've seen that
all
picture.
the-
I love that. Yeah.
That's him. That's
Okay.
Genki Sudo. So he was a pioneer back in the day. You know,
Got it.
like very flashy, very excited to watch. Loved these walkouts. He was a very good entertainer. You know,
Mhm.
yeah. So like him was one of the people I really liked. People I really looked up to within the sport was a close friend of mine and training partner, now coach, is Mike Brown. I learned so much from Mike Brown. Actually, Mike Brown fought Genki Sudo, so
Oh,
that's
wow.
fun. But yeah, so
Okay.
I picked up so much from him along the ways, because obviously coming from England, I didn't have a wrestling background, never wrestled a day in my life. So I came over to the American top team, and like I'm like, okay, wow, wrestling is important. And
Yeah.
I kind of like took it to a duck to water, but also this is the different thing. What I always say now is like, people go, oh, what do I do to get into the sport? What do I do? Do I go do some boxing? Do I go wrestling? Do I do some BJJ? And I'm like, well, if you want to do MMA, go do MMA. And then, what do you mean? I'm like, because MMA is a different sport.
Yeah.
Like, I would 100%, and I have done throughout my career, out wrestled wrestlers, right? In a fight. But if I had a wrestling match with them, they'll smoke me 100%, because it's different, different
yeah.
style,
Oh, yeah.
different style, different setups. How you get in, you throw a punch, you can change the level. It's so different. You're not wrestling from a small size. Then BJJ, you do BJJ with a gi on. It's tough. I always explain this. Like, people say, "Do you do BJJ?" I said, "Yeah." I say, can you swim?" And they're like, "Yeah." I say, "Can you swim with all your clothes on?" Yeah. Is it harder? Yeah, it will be, won't it? Same with me. I could do jiu-jitsu, but I do the same things with a gi than without gi. So I'm just effectively swimming with loads of clothes on.
Yeah.
So I said, like, also this is different. So MMA is different, where gi grappling to no gi grappling is massive difference, because I find in no gi grappling, athleticism is rewarded way more. So you could explode out of things, slip out, and like someone like Yo Romero, you know, would be great without a gi, but on a gi, you have to tie him up a little bit more. So it takes it, with a gi on, adds more skill. Without a gi, you can get away with more athleticism, and then you bring MMA involved, and when you start punching, then everyone's head goes out the window and everything. So when you're punching as well, so I find all of it, and also like any type of striking, boxing or kickboxing, it's a different stance. You stand very tall when you kickbox. You know, you stand side on when you box. That's not good for MMA. You can't stand side on for low kicks. You can't stand so tall because of takedowns. So you got to try and hybrid all this sort of stuff and put it together. I found, coming from no real background, a little bit of a boxing background, but no real background, I just learned MMA for MMA. So that's why I found my style helped.
I think you've been very successful for a lot of reasons, but you're right. Sometimes when you get someone who wants to be an MMA fighter, but they have a very strong background in whatever sport it is, you have to unteach some things to them. And like you said, perfect analogy is that it's a hybrid of all these sports, right? You could be a great wrestler, a great kickboxer, a great jujitsu player, it doesn't matter. But if you don't learn the glue, the transitions to stick it all together, you're not going to be a great MMA fighter. And nothing makes you better at fighting than fighting. So I totally agree with you. I know that you are now the head coach, like we talked about, but I feel like you are, you know, I'm 34 years old. That's older for fighting, but young in life. Do you feel like you may go back to bare knuckle at some point just for shits and giggles, or maybe want to stick with head coaching?
Okay, when I retired from the UFC, I retired at the highest level of sport. Like, I like to say, I may not look it, but I like to think I'm quite a smart man, right? So when I retired from fighting, I say I was like top 15 or something like that. I can't remember what I was, but I was like there. So when I got offered to do, I've been offered to do a bare knuckle boxing match a few times while I was competing. I was like, no way, why would I? Kind of thing. And then so when I retired, And also another story about this, when I got into fighting when I was younger, my mom said to me, "Oh, you got it from my granddad." My granddad died when I was 4 years of age, so I didn't really know him too well. But I remember seeing him, like old pictures of him. He used to wear a trilby hat and braces. So that's
Oh,
why my walkouts, I used to wear my hat and my braces to pay tribute to my granddad.
oh,
But
wow.
he used to be a bare knuckle boxer back in the 1920s, right? So
Oh,
he used to work during the day, but at night time, just to earn the extra money. So it's all about earning money for the family to help them feed them. He used to go do bare knuckle boxing. So I got it from him in a way. So when I retired, I'm like, you know what? It'd be pretty cool to do a bare knuckle boxing match,
yeah.
just to do a full circle of like how I got into the sport, kind of where I must have got it from to finish.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not trying, like I say, being smart. I'm like, I've just finished at the highest level. I still compete. I retired on my own terms. I still could probably compete there, but I retired. So people who are going to give me trouble in a bare knuckle boxing match would be, no, people give me trouble in a fight would be UFC athletes, but they're not fighting in bare knuckle. Would it be glove boxers, but they're fighting glove boxing? They're fighting in their profession. So like the level of bare knuckle boxing is going to be turd when I did, which it was. And now, don't get me wrong, with the money and the glitz and the gram, and also a lot of retired athletes, the level of bare knuckle boxing has gone up. But also with the bare knuckle boxing, most people, like, if I had a real great athlete, young athlete, which I do have a lot of great athletes in my gym, and they go, "Oh, I want to get into bare knuckle boxing," I'm like, "Nope, do MMA, do boxing. You're going to earn more money from that because that's what you want to do. And then when you come to the end of your career, you'll fight." So don't get me wrong, now there's so many good ex-MMA fighters who are very good high level fighters, but they've had their other careers, you know. So
Yeah. You
yeah,
don't
so
tell
that's
your younger fighters, not just because of the money, but maybe like, longevity, like the bare knuckle boxing. I mean, how many bare knuckle boxing fights can you have? I see doing a one-off when you're done, and like you are a very smart man. You knew the landscape was underdeveloped to say the least, and so you're going to go in there, make a quick dollar, and then get
yeah.
out.
No, I
Very
mean,
smart.
when I did it, it was just like to once to say I did it. I fought for the British belt as well.
Mm.
Uh, Weirdly enough, I won with 2 punches. I didn't get hit, so like in a weird way, I kind of wanted to do it again because being quite masochistic, like I was throughout my career, I kind of like, okay, hit me. I'll show you how tough I am. I was kind of that kind of person, and I never got hit in a bare knuckle boxing match. So I kind of like, I wanted to feel what it was like to get hit with a bare knuckle. But it never happened. But I'm like, whatever. So I'm very content with what I had done and I achieved. And now for me, it's like you see a lot. This going back to other coaches, right? So you see a lot of coaches who have never been there, and then when their fight is there, they're like, and they want that limelight, right?
Yeah,
And they're like,
yeah.
"Hey, I'm here." So no,
Oh.
it's all about me. Look,
Yeah.
I've been there. I've had my slice of the shine. I'm happy with what I've done, and I'm boom. And there's my job to let these other guys shine, and it's their spotlight. Give them the spotlight.
Yeah.
Like they're like, for me, it's not about me anymore, and I'm content with that. I'm
Yeah.
content that it's not about me anymore, and and for me, I was very competitive, and I still am very competitive. So now I will compete through my athletes. For me now, I want my team to be one of the best teams. I want my fighters to be the best fighters. So that's how I still can compete through them.
Man, that's another reason why you are a great individual to be a head coach, and why future fighters are going to have it so much easier than we had it,
Yeah.
because you are, not only are you knowledgeable and all that, but you're not going to be that person, like you said, fighting for the spotlight. You have nothing to prove. You, like you said, had your moment in the sun, and now you can let the fighter shine. And that's another benefit of having someone like you, a former UFC fighter on the highest level, as a head coach. That's pretty awesome. And that's a great story about your grandfather and the bare knuckle. I love you call them braces, we call them suspenders here.
I know this is what I say. I knew this as well, but suspenders in England is what connects women's tights to their knickers.
Knickers. Yeah, that's funny. We call it underwear, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we call them underwear as well. But yeah, that's the suspenders is what they're having on the now. They're like different things. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I don't know if you've seen some pictures of me. I wear suspenders a lot with my attire. I'm just a fan of that fashion style.
Yeah.
So I told you I'm recovering from spine surgery. I don't know if you've had any injuries in your career, if you've had to deal with those kinds of things, but I want to know, someone who is very knowledgeable and experienced, what advice would you give me, other fighters dealing with physical setbacks?
Adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to adapt. That's what it is like I've got no ACL on my right leg. I ruptured that when I was 21 years of age, and I never had an ACL throughout my whole fighting career in my right.
That's from
So,
soccer?
Yeah, I done it when I was 21. I didn't start fighting until I was 26.
Wow.
So I've had no ACL on my right leg for 22 years now, right? And it gives me a lot of trouble. But I just learned how to look after it, like how I always explain to people, like, if you can play the piano, right, and you've got 10 fingers and you play the piano and you lose a finger, you're going to be quite hard now. You'll be, oh, it's really on the finger. But then if you learn to play the piano with only 9 fingers, you better play the piano. So like I learned how to adapt with my injury, and then learn how to adapt down the line with other injuries. I've watched my ACL. I watched my L5S1 in my bottom of my spine. I've done that. Yeah, that gave me a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if this is always the best sort of advice, because I never want anyone to get more injured. But I train for a lot of injuries. Your body is so, if you look after your body, for one, eat the right sort of stuff and do the right things, your body is an amazing thing. It adapts. You learn how to do things and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, if you have an actually chronic injury, it's different. But most times, like, you think, oh, my shoulder's really bad, and then like, I remember when I fought Demetrius Johnson, I separated my shoulder, my left shoulder, right? And it was so bad for like probably a year. And then it just went. So I'm like, but it's just, I just still fought for it, and still, I mean, like, you just kind of just adapt. Okay, I can't do this. So when I watched my L5S1 in my back, I'm like, okay, Carl, I can't do this sort of lifting. And I realize when I'm in a vulnerable position, when I'm grappling, and I won't do it, and I won't do it. Same with my knee. My knee, I'd always pass to someone's, to my right, rather go to my left. I don't want to get caught in half guard with my right leg, because that makes it sore. So you just learn to adapt. Adapt is like, you always do something. If you hurt your hand, you can run. You hurt your feet, you can do some. You always do something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and time heals a lot of things as well. Over time. And sometimes this might sound so old school, but sometimes I'd have an injury and something else hurts more. I'd injure something else, and then I forget about this injury because this one hurts more. That's kind of how it was.
It's so funny that you said that, because I'm listening to you and I'm like, how do I tell him without insulting him? I'm like, that's some old school shit for sure. Like, just kind of like, suck it up, mate. I'm like, okay, like, that's what you gotta do.
I know it sounds strange, but I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit of an old school in that way, where life is fucking hard, like it's tough, like, and then
this sport is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
No, so but I have some fights. I'm like, and I had one the other day. Guy coming up, oh, coach, what's that? He looked at me, and his finger was bleeding. I'm like, oh, what's about that? And I'm like, he goes, oh man, I'm like, you literally just cut yourself with your own nail. It's not even that bad. He goes, I think I made it in a stitch. I mean, no, look at it. It's not even deep. It's just bleeding. Like,
it's just bleeding.
Like, just get back to what you're doing.
Yeah.
I am old school in some ways, but that I do find you have to have some sort of mental toughness within the sport, you know, because
Yeah.
things are hard. It's not an easy sport. If you want something easy, you got to use a different profession. So you know, I always say this to a lot of my fighters as well. When I feel not feeling too well, coach, I feel a bit ill and stuff. I get that, but then I'll be like, will that stop? Like one of the Russians who train in Dagestan, do you reckon they'll come? Do you reckon they'll come to me with that problem? And they're like, probably not. No. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool.
Probably not, no.
I'm a bit old school in that way, but I need to build some sort of toughness. If I went, oh mate, you're okay. Oh, sit out this round. Some people, as human beings, we're designed to find the easiest route to something.
Path of least resistance. Path of least resistance.
Yeah, easy. You're gonna do that, right? So if I could try and get there, if I do as least as possible I can, I will. So it's my job to say, no. You gotta go that way. You gotta do that. You gotta do those. Oh, coach, I'm done. Don't it? No, 2 more rounds. Give me 2 more rounds. You're not done. Oh no. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. God forbid, sometimes you may get injured within those rounds. Then I'll feel bad. But sometimes you need to mentally push those. Right. There's a thing like what I do sometimes do with my guys in my gym where we'll be coaching and they say, how many rounds are we doing today? I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Just do them. And then we're doing it. We normally do, technically we do 8 5-minute rounds of wrestling, whatever, which is quite a lot of rounds, right? Right. And we're getting there, right? And so we normally do 8 5s. When it gets to the 5th round, I go halfway. And they're like, what are you on about? That means it's going to be 10. I mean, no, it's not halfway. No, just carry it. And then they're like, and then I see when it gets to when normally we stop at 8 rounds, we normally stop, I'll be like, 9th round ready, everyone get ready. And I see like who's like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. If you're done, done. If you can't go, sit down, fine, you don't have to do them. And I see who's ready to go for the 9th round.
Yeah. And
when they get ready for it, I'm like, boom, relax, finished. We ain't doing the 9th round. But I just wanted to see who was prepared to do that 9th.
Yeah.
You know, and the people who are prepared to do it, congratulations. The people who are not, have a word of yourself. Look, you got some mental toughness.
Yeah. That's great. You kind of intentionally fuck with your athletes just to test them. You got to test them. You really do. You got to test them. You got to push them and see where they're at. Because
your mind is so important. It's like your mind wants to quit sometimes, and like your body could do so much more. You see people do craziest things, like lift the car for a human being because their adrenaline's pumping and do that. You know, like so when someone sees like, oh, I've got a couple of minutes left, I'm all right. And then someone goes, no, now, sorry, you go do extra round. And that's where sometimes you grow mentally. As in like, someone told me, I don't know how true this is, but there was an experiment where they did with a mouse, right? Horrible experiment, don't get me wrong. They put a mouse in some water, right? To see how long it can swim, right? Before it drowned. And then what happened, it would swim for like 5 minutes, and then eventually drown. So then what happened there, right? They put another one in the water, right? After a few minutes, they took the mouse out, let it rest, gave it a bit of cheese and fed the mouse, then put it back in the water. And this mouse went over like 30, 40 minutes because in the back of his mind, it was like, oh, I could maybe come back out at some point. They may save me. I'll keep swimming. So he had reason to keep going rather than like just quitting on himself. You know, so
that just makes me feel like animals are much smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah, no, but it's saying that he was like, okay, I've been saved at one point. There's chance that someone can save me. I will try and survive as much as I can.
Yes.
So yeah. So
same with your fighters.
That's it. I'm gonna do that to all of my fighters.
So you and I both have been working for Injitsucom, an amazing platform, basically connects people like you, former athletes and now coaches, and you guys are doing virtual training, one-on-one questions. What's that been like? Because I know you've been with them from the beginning, basically when the pandemic was in its really peak of shittiness.
Yeah, so for me, it's like the world is always changing, you know, like I'm 43 now, so but when I was like 10, who would in a million years think I'm speaking to someone on FaceTime to someone in America? It's just crazy.
Crazy.
This is just common knowledge now. I mean, like, this is just day to day. This is easy. This is what everyone does. So it's just like now how the world's just changing. So even now we're changing. One second. But literally out. Yeah, so as my mother-in-law's dog was barking at me. Yeah, so it's just like the change now of everything is just always evolving. So now it's so much easier now to be able to work from your house. Like a lot of people now don't work at offices anymore. They could do a lot of their work at the house, and then
It's okay.
Right.
This will be the last part, Brad. Sorry.
I see it. Someone else at the door when the dog was barking. Yeah, so like just now they just a natural progression of technology and stuff like that. It makes sense what in just what we're doing. They were connecting people who are stuck training at home training with high level athletes who they'll never normally be able to train with, and you're just connecting the sort of dots and giving them a home workout, and also in a weird way, a bit like a fan chance to work out with a fighter that you admire, you know. And then we've done a lot with Injitsu, and some of them we've done some really good workouts, don't get me wrong, but then people just like, boom, at the end, Q&A, ask whatever you want, and people just love that one-on-one sort of chance to be able to chat to someone that maybe aspire to ask them any sort of questions, even just listen to them, you know. So it was a very good idea and a very good platform, and yeah, I've always enjoyed working for them.
Yeah, Injitsu.com, if you guys want to check that out. It's an amazing platform. You get to be coached or just shoot the shit with people like Brad, One Punch Pickett. Brad, that's all the time that I know you have for today. We're going to take off, but if we want to follow you on social media, and I know you're not fighting anymore, but we'd love to keep up with you. Where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram on @ONE_punch, and it's the same on Twitter as well.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Brad. Good luck with all the busy schedule.
Thank you. Thanks for the interview. All right, take care.